Salesforce.org, and RaiseNow to talk about this this discussion surrounding online fundraising in Switzerland, and a number of the different ways that we can help optimize organizations and so forth. So before we get on with it, what I'd like to do is just quickly remind everyone some housekeeping. Everyone, please make sure that you are on mute. I know it's sometimes difficult, but if you could just make sure you do that. All questions, we really do encourage you to ask questions at any time. We do have an allotted Q&A portion at the end of the session, but please feel free to write any of your questions in the chat box on the side of the window. If any questions, well, if we are for whatever reason unable to answer any of your questions during today's session, please rest assured that we will get back to you with the answers to those afterwards. It is really important that we try and get back to, well, provide answers to all and any of the questions that you have. And last but not least, the session will be recorded. So after this, or after the webinar, over the course of the week, you will receive a recording and the presentation itself for today's webinar. So if you would like to share it with colleagues and so forth, you will have that opportunity. So again, thank you very much for joining us today. As a quick introduction, my name is Daniel Lotchek, and I'm an account executive here at Salesforce.org, and I'll be your moderator today. Just a brief introduction to myself. I've been working with nonprofits for the past 5 years through medical associations across the board, and I'm really pleased to be here today. I think, you know, the way we work at Salesforce.org and the way I work is essentially I'm supporting nonprofit organizations throughout Switzerland to help them leverage the technology, the Salesforce technology that we have at our disposal to help you as organizations make more of an impact and become, again, more impactful organizations. And I'm very proudly joined today by Emmanuel from Nexell, Jens Kors from RaiseNow, as well as Marco Zaug from RaiseNow as well. So for today, the agenda will be some brief introductions, just some introductions to who we are, our organizations, and what we are here to help, or how we are here to help. Then we'll move on to some 3 ways on how we can increase efficiency and lower costs through online and digital fundraising. Then on to a live demonstration of the RaiseNow and the integration with the Salesforce platform, and then with the Q&A session at the very end. So without further ado, I will let Emma kick off with a brief introduction to Nexell.
Hi, so welcome everyone. It's a pleasure to see that our webinar is being very successful. So thank you, Daniel, for taking the opportunity to moderate the session today. So brief overview on Nexell. Nexell, we are one of the oldest partners in Switzerland. We've been working with Salesforce over 20 years. So we have a dual function. So we work with Salesforce.com, and we have as well a huge impact with Salesforce.org, which is the non-profit part of Salesforce. So we've been working with them over now 20 years. We have a large experience in when it comes to Nexell, to non-profit. We lead over 200 projects, sorry for that. And we have over 6 non-profit consultants. So the idea with what we do is that we want to take your problem, fix them so that you can make a difference from the inside and really focus on what's your main task and really makes your life easier as a non-profit company. So that's what we do with Nexell. And if you have any question, don't hesitate to come back to me later on. Thanks. Go back to you, Daniel.
Okay.
Move slides, thanks.
No problem at all. So as a quick introduction to Salesforce.org, so Salesforce.org is, I mean, you may have heard of Salesforce before. Salesforce.org is the social center or the social impact center of Salesforce, if you will. So we on our side really focus on empowering nonprofit organizations through, you could say, the powerful technology that we have at our disposal. Now, today, we're obviously speaking about fundraising, and I think we're going to, or digital fundraising, so I'll focus on this. Salesforce in itself as a platform is a multi-tenant solution, so there are obviously a lot of different moving pieces. However, today, in terms of fundraising, I think it's important that we focus on the key indicators with which this type of solution can help organizations such as yourselves. Obviously, gaining a single source of truth removing or eradicating silos is a common theme that we see across the board. Maximizing the development teams and fundraising wherever you are. Teams are now dispersed all around. And I think with COVID, we all know that we do not necessarily have the opportunity to work in the same office as we did before. Leveraging the multi-channel model. So obviously strengthening digital fundraising, building trust, gain and visibility. I think transparency is a very key word that we see across the board. And innovation, I think, is always important, and being able to move forward and being able to progress. And through this, I think an interesting statistic is well, on average across the organizations with whom we work, we do see a 49% increase in donations, which I think is a great indicator that there is a lot of value in such solutions. So with that, I'll pass on to Marco to take on the next presentation. So Marco, if you're able to share your screen.
Yeah, I think you have to stop your sharing.
Let me do that.
All right. So, hello everybody. I'm Marco, representing RaiseNow together with Jens today. I think a couple of attendees actually know us, and we also have a couple of attendees actually already using RaiseNow technology. Rest assured, we will also discuss a few things today that you don't know yet. There are some premieres in these sessions, and so yeah, I'm happy to dive into our part of the presentation. So for those who don't know us, who don't know RaiseNow, we are a technology provider, fundraising technology provider. So we're 100% focusing on providing technology that you can use to increase your fundraising results and to reduce costs doing so. We are active in all over of Europe, also in North and Latin America, and we recently merged with colleagues in Germany, the company called Altruya, and together Altruya and RaiseNow, we are above 2,000 customers, mainly in Europe, but as I said, also now starting to grow in America. What we actually provide is, especially in the Salesforce context, is we provide a missing piece that comes with the standard Salesforce platform, which is not a pure fundraising technology platform. It's a big platform that can be used for everything that you actually do at your organization. But actually, the fundraising part is not fully covered with standard features by Salesforce itself. So that's why we deliver basically the missing pieces, which are mainly payment technology, touchpoint technology like giving forms, peer-to-peer fundraising, face-to-face fundraising integration, processing of recurring giving. I think that's mainly what we do. And we actually, my colleague Jens will show you how that actually works in combination with Salesforce a little later. Just give you a quick impressions of touchpoints. This is the peer-to-peer platform. We also have technology for street fundraising. We do basically integrate with many payment service providers out there, and without further ado, go straight into the main topic of today, which is sharing some wisdom we gained how to increase efficiency in the fundraising results and how to lower costs doing so. First, that might be no surprise for some of you, especially the ones that are living in Switzerland. Twint is one particular way, which is something you should look at if you don't know Twint or if you don't use Twint yet. I shared some figures with you. Unfortunately, this slide is in German, but the rest is in English, so sorry about that. Just a few key figures. The number of users in Switzerland that use that mobile payment system is above 2 to 5 million by now. It's almost like 75 banks using Twint to let their bank account holders basically connect to the bank. And their 8.7 million transactions they basically process at the moment. I'll show you a quick intro into the fundraising aspect of Twint. As you can see on that chart, there are a lot of bars. Blue means 219, and red means 2020. And what you see on that particular screen here is the number of payment transactions, the number of donations that we processed on the RaiseNow platform. And the bars are representing payment methods. And as you can see, there is one particular spike, the second last column, TWI, which stands for Twint. And you see there is a massive growth that we've seen the last 12 months or 18 months actually. And Twint is by far the most important payment method actually for at least digital fundraising in Switzerland. So if you don't support Twint yet on your website, please reach out to your technology provider to let them activate Twint for you. Just as a quick example, so how that looks like. So if you use Twint on your website, actually that's mainly is a donation form, and you should basically have like Twint as a payment method. You can also use Twint for your direct mailing programs, which is something which is particularly interesting if you want to also convert offline donors to online donors, or if you basically want to convert offline donors into be online enabled. We also have possibilities for billboards where you can actually print the QR code. You can also have basically a possibility to have physical events where you just have like a QR code where people can actually scan and donate. And what I'd like to do now is I want to share two particular interesting features which will relate to the question how to increase fundraising results. Where do I have those quick? So that's a spotlight. I'd love to share. Hopefully everybody can see that. So this is a screenshot or a quick sequence of a Twint user. As you can see here on that screen, that's the first screen that you will see if you open Twint. There is a donation appeal up here that is visible to 2.5 million Swiss users or Twint users. Now, if you click on that appeal, you will see a quick intro to the appeal. You click on donate, and then you can actually donate to that particular cause. In that example, we have Caritas, and as you saw, that's a most recent campaign. It's about Beirut, and so actually that campaign's up and running for a couple of days now, and pretty successful. I saw that Christoph is attending that session. Christoph is head of digital. He might share the actual figures, how much they raised through that particular placement. The second one I'd like to show to you, which is a premiere. Nobody have seen that before because it has been launched today, but it has been launched 50 minutes ago, which is called Twint Plus. Twint Plus, as you can see here on that screen, is a new section on your Twint app. And actually it represents the possibility for added value services to be directly integrated in the Twint app. So let's have a quick tour how that works. So as you can see, we have the Twint Plus interface. The three solutions currently activated are parking, digital vouchers, and donate. So if you click on donate, you would see, or you can see different organizations You can then choose a particular organization, then get some infos about the organization, and you directly have the possibility to donate. And then you basically have the possibility to just place your donation and just enter your credentials, and then you get a tax receipt if you want the tax receipt. What the idea of Twin Plus Donate actually is, you just notice there is basically just 6 organizations highlighted here. Those are our launch charities. Now Twin Plus will be evolved over the next couple of weeks, so that we do have way more organizations up there. We have way more possibilities for the donor to find his or her charity of choice. So you could actually choose charity by topic, by geographical activities, but also emergencies. There will be more possibilities for charities in Switzerland actually to advertise or promote their campaigns, because currently in Twint we only have the spotlight spot. As you know, this is the spot here, and this will be extended with this particular part of Twint. You could call it, it's a donation portal, or it's a online giving portal, which will be further developed over the next few weeks, as I said. There will be exciting news to share in due time, but I just wanted to share that piece of info with you. Reach out to me if you have further questions regarding the demos I just showed. Let's go back to my initial screen. So the second one is, people that know me already know that topic. Data-driven fundraising is an extremely important way to actually increase your the results of your fundraising campaign. It's basically the main idea here. Data-driven fundraising means to individualize, to personalize your individual giving campaigns. What does that mean? It's basically a combination of your CRM technology with marketing automation technology and together with fundraising technology to basically actually have a individual conversation with each single donor, so that basically those donors are more related or more bound to your organization. And the combination of those 3 systems, obviously with clever people operating it, will help you to increase your results significantly. The third one I'd like to introduce, some might have seen that in other regions and other markets. I just wanted to give a quick intro to this concept because it's not well known in Switzerland. So how to increase your online fundraising results? So if I tell you there is a method, a way that you can increase your results by 3 to 5% without any extra costs, particularly talking about online giving, you might think, yeah, that's how would that work? And I'd like to show you an example how easy that is. So this is an example, a live example. You can actually visit it yourself, medair.org/donate. You will basically get a donation form. As you can see, you can actually choose whatever you want, amount-wise, currency, and so on. Let's go into the payment option. Then click on next. And then you basically get a classical form presented to you. And now have a closer look at that last bit of the form, which is called, as I said, cover the fee. And basically what it is, you just ask the donor whether the donor is willing to give a little on top of his or her donation to basically cover the fee that is linked to that donation. You could actually rewrite that text. You can test it, of course, what works best. You can also play around with the amounts, which are, of course, linked to the donation amount that the donor chose. But ultimately, I think the most important aspect here is how well is that? How well is the reception of that feature? And I'd like to show you this. So we gathered feedback. We analyzed data from various organizations doing so, and the acceptance rate varies between 55 to 90% of the donors accepting to pay for the processing fee. Which means depending on whether that option here is click to accept, so opt-in, or whether that option is an opt-out, that heavily depends. So if you go opt-out, you receive the highest rates. So we had examples of 90% with the opt-out option, where quota fee was selected automatically, and you had to actively deselect it. And 55 was the lowest we had. So at least 55% of your donors will help you to cover the cost that comes along with the donations. And as I said, overall, the fundraising result will most likely increase 3 to 5% without any extra cost, as I said. So that's my part of the presentation.
Thank you, Marco. And sorry, just for the quick switch over. So thank you for that. That was extremely interesting, and it's great to see in real life some new solutions being launched today. First to see it, so that's a privilege in itself. And now we're going to switch over to a live demo where we're really going to highlight the you could say the seamless integration between the CRM using, so say, Salesforce as the CRM, and the seamless integration with RaiseNow, and how that works, how that looks like from different points of view. And I think this is where we'll be able to see a live example. So I'll now pass over to Jens, who will then take over with the demonstration. And again, thank you for the questions. There's already a few questions that have come through the chat. So please go ahead and continue asking those questions. We're happy to answer them either on the spot or at the end. So thank you very much.
All right. Can you hear me okay? Perfect.
Loud and clear.
Thanks, Marco, for the introduction. Thanks, Daniel, for the handover. Yeah, I'm Jens, and today I want to dive into several user stories, which hopefully illustrate how we work with Salesforce to make it a seamless integration. Obviously, this is just a subset of the functionality. If you are interested to learn more, let us know in the chat or afterwards via email. We'll be happy to provide more information. All right. So let's quickly jump in here. So we have some personas today. Quick note, what are personas? Basically just some stereotypical people that we invented, imaginary people that we invented to help us understand our stories better. Right, so for one, our first persona is Cena the Fundraiser at our imaginary organization, Futura Goal. We have some details here. She's been working in fundraising for some time, works part-time, and is moderately tech savvy, but has interest in innovation, right? Likes to learn new things, try out stuff. Also, a very important person in fundraising is the accountant. So our accountant today will be Monica. And Monica also lives in Zurich. She works part-time for Futuro Goal as a professional accountant. She doesn't have much truck with tech, but she knows how to use the accounting solutions that she relies on to do her work. And of course, she likes balanced books. Last but not least, the center of our attention is Patrick. He will be our donor today. He's a college graduate, works and lives in Zurich, not very tech savvy, interested in philanthropy and specifically access to healthcare, education as basic human rights. All right, so let's get started with our first user story. So Patrick has received an email from his friend Anna, and Anna asks him, instead of presents, hey Patrick, I really would appreciate it if you donate to my fundraising page here for Futuro Goal. So Patrick follows the link in that email and he says donate now. So we go through that donation process. I'll select to store my payment details here for later use. And we submit that donation. All right, so Patrick has now the option to leave a message here for Anna. And we go back to the campaign page. Right, so the peer-to-peer platform is a tool that RaiseNow provides to allow your constituents to raise money on your behalf, right? On the behalf of your organization. So Anna is a constituent of Futura Goal, and she can create this page, configure this page, and ask her peers to send donations to her. And we see she's been pretty successful with this campaign, but she's not yet quite at her goal of 900 Swiss francs. So let's take a look at what that looks like in Salesforce. So now we're switching heads, right? Now I'm Cena, and I use this dashboard here in Salesforce to keep track of various KPIs. How are we doing in terms of opportunities this month? What is the number of opportunities and how much have we actually raised? How do we do, or how successful are certain payment methods? And how successful are specific campaigns, right? Let's refresh that real quick. I just did that, all right? So the first thing I want to look at is, what does a donation actually look like in Salesforce? So we see here an object called opportunity. And in Salesforce, a donation, the central object to represent a donation is an opportunity. So we see here, okay, we have an account name, we have a contact, and those are, of course, all the things that are entered in my donation form. The stage name for the opportunity here is close one, and the probability is 100%, and that is because we already have a payment here. So let's quickly check out that payment as well. So we see, okay, the payment method was Visa, amount was CHF50, and that is paid. The payment date is today. Of course, we also have a contact linked here. So quickly checking out that contact. We also see here under the related tab the opportunity for the donation that we just created. And we see down here the address and the email that we provided. There's another related object here that is a customer. That is a representation of the corresponding RaiseNow data set for Patrick. That will become important a little later, so I'll go into that in a bit more detail. I just want to point it out here. Going back to the opportunity, there are, of course, some specifics for the touch points that we used to create the donation, so specifics for our peer-to-peer platform. So the first one is that the opportunity is linked to a campaign. And campaigns in Salesforce are really important. They are used to measure, for example, which marketing campaigns are successful, but they are also used to allocate funds, right? So if you have, say, a purpose-bound fund for a specific campaign, right? Everything that comes through the Futura Goal platform should go into the education fund or something like that. That is handled through the allocations on the campaign. So this is a very important link. And of course, we support it directly here. So if we check out the detail view for that campaign, we have a representation of Anna's fundraising page within Salesforce. So we can check out some details here. The expected revenue, of course, is also CHF 900, and that should run for a month, and it started a couple of days ago. We see the value of the won opportunities in this campaign. We see the number of opportunities in this campaign, and we see the context in that campaign. And if we go back to the related tab and we check out the campaign members, now we see, okay, we have several donors here on that campaign, as well as Anna, who's our fundraiser, right? So we can kind of keep track of the on the relation of the various people in that campaign. If we go to the campaign overview from here, then we see, okay, Anna's campaign actually is a child campaign to the Futuro Goal peer-to-peer campaign. And if we check out the Futuro Goal peer-to-peer campaign, then we actually can click here on all, and we see, okay, there are a bunch of campaigns that were created under this parent campaign. And this is basically due to a configuration you can define in the peer-to-peer platform. So Cena, as our fundraiser, would have a special configuration interface for the peer-to-peer platform to designate this parent campaign to have child campaigns be automatically created below that parent campaign within Salesforce. And that also allows you to kind of keep your campaign view from clogging up, right? If you do this, don't do this, and here we have some example where there's no campaign, no parent campaign defined, and basically the platform will then automatically create campaigns just on the root level. All right. Okay, so that was the peer-to-peer donation. So next we're switching hats again, and we're going to a tool called Accounting Subledger. And I want to touch on this only very briefly, but our head now is Monica's head, right? And Monica, as we said, is interested in balance books. So she has some accounting software, Microsoft Finance, Datev, maybe Abacus, something else that she's using to keep track of what donation counts into which fund, what money is received through which payment methods, and how those bookings are managed there. And if we see here, for example, we have here an example, also a donation by Patrick, where we create for a single donation, we see here this is the same payment, and we get one entry on the debit side for the payment method Visa, and we get one entry on the credit side on the payment method on the fund education, right? And this is achieved basically through the allocations on the campaign that I mentioned earlier. So if we check out here, for example, the peer-to-peer campaign, we can define new allocations here to general accounting units, which will then control where that money goes in the accounting subledger. I just want to mention this real briefly. The accounting subledger is not a RaiseNow product. We're just compatible with it through our adherence to the NPSP or nonprofit success pack data model. All right. So moving on, let's get back to our next story. Okay. Now we've just acquired Patrick as a new donor to our NGO or to our nonprofit Futuro Goal, and now we have this emergency call to action. So we have a situation where drought has been devastating rural areas, children are suffering worldwide, and Cena sends out a newsletter blast to all her constituents. Patrick is among those now. And because he has donated previously, we can actually send him a personalized link. So let's check out what that will look like. Oh, actually, let's use a different version. Let's use this link. All right. Okay, so if we look more closely at this link, we will see that here we have a thing called a customer token, and we have defined a purpose and an amount. And these parameters do a couple of things. So the purpose definition, the very last, will set the second purpose in that form. So that would be for the water fund, or say this corresponds to a Salesforce campaign for water on which you can define your allocations. We've also specified an amount up here to say, okay, this is CHF 15, which I want to donate. And through the customer token up there, we have pre-filled all these, all this information right here. Now, Patrick actually decides, okay, I want to use the payment slip payment method, and he submits something that we call a pledge. Okay, if we download the payment slip now, we get a Swiss reference number here. We could also send that via email directly to Patrick, and Patrick would then use it using his online banking interface to pay for that reference number, or he could print out that payment slip and put it into the post and pay that way. So let's take a quick look at this. Oh, actually, that's not the correct one. So similar example here. So this now is something that we call a pledge, right? And the process here to transfer this takes about 30 seconds more. So I'm starting with a different example here. So the pledge is not a paid for donation yet. So if we come back to our model in NPSP, what a donation actually looks like, then this is sort of an incomplete donation, right? So the stage of that opportunity is on the pledge. We have a probability here of 50%. We do have a contact, but we don't have a payment yet, right? Makes sense. But what would this example actually look like once that has been paid? And for this purpose, I've prepared another example. So let's imagine the situation. A couple of days ago, Patrick created that pledge. Say he chose an amount, and then a couple of days later, he actually remembered, I have to pay for this. So he goes to his online banking, he enters his credentials for the online banking, and he creates a transaction passing the reference number or that I pointed out earlier. Now, in this case, RaiseNow would access the bank account for Futura Goal regularly, say on a daily basis, and download account information automatically. The format that we're using here is a CAMP54 file, but really it's not that important at the moment. Really, the important point here is RaiseNow interacts with your bank to retrieve the account information and then identifies based on the reference number the earlier created opportunity. And we can see that in this example, right? So we created an opportunity here on the 17th of August, and then we updated it on the same day by we updated it a day later, and we actually processed the amount and the reference number and updated the opportunity stage name to create a payment using that reference number and to update the opportunity to closed one. Right. And I should point out, this is just an example for one-off donation. The same thing would be possible with recurring donation, where you say, okay, I have a reference number identifying a recurring donation, and I can actually go through this month by month or quarterly or whatever my chosen interval is, and I always use that reference number and update a recurring donation. And recurring donation is actually what we're going to look at next. So again, we have a prepared link here that we sent Patrick. So this time it's the same form, right? But you may notice it looks different. So here we have embedded this form into a styled HTML page. And in this example, this is a plain HTML page. But from a RaiseNow perspective, this is exactly the same form. So you pay for it once and you can use it wherever you like, in any page, in any CMS, and on any domain. And it will always route the donations to your organization, of course. And you can configure this in different ways to satisfy different use cases, or to apply different styling. Say if you have a landing page for a specific purpose, then with styling tailored to that purpose, configured on that landing page, you can make sure that to your donors it looks completely different. Okay, so here we pass again the customer token. We switch to the general fund for this campaign, and we choose here to use monthly payments. And we also suggest Patrick a payment method, post finance card, because that is one of the cheaper options for our organization. Patrick now goes, no, I like credit card better. And just like that, we create a recurring donation in Salesforce. So we get the confirmation here. And now, for the first time, we're actually going to take a quick look at what this looks like in RaiseNow. So let's just go to RaiseNow. So in case you don't know RaiseNow, this is more or less the tool that comes supplied with RaiseNow, and I don't want to dive deep into it because the aspiration here is really that you don't need it. But for this particular case, it serves to show what I want to demo here. So basically, we have a representation of the recurring donation in Salesforce as a subscription. And we have payment records here that are linked to that subscription in RaiseNow. In Salesforce, the same thing is called a recurring donation. And that's this one that we just created. Right? So a recurring donation in Salesforce serves as a sort of container for individual donations and what you might expect in the future. So we have the installment period here on that recurring donation. We have the number of planned installments because it's for the given financial year. We have 12 installments for the next periods. If we check out the related tab, we see up here RaiseNow subscription record, and we are going to get to that in a second. And we see opportunities here that were created by Salesforce Nonprofit Success Pack to actually represent the individual installments. Now we have the first installment here, and that has already been paid. So that's interesting. How did that happen? We have here a transaction link, and that again is a representation of the RaiseNow object. And I just want the transaction identifier here. And we search for that in RaiseNow real quick. Okay, so that is our first payment for that subscription in RaiseNow, our first RaiseNow transaction, and that is linked to the recurring donation. So if we were to execute another charge for the payment method on the related subscription, it would create another transaction in RaiseNow. And looking at the recurring donation that we had, that will actually identify the next opportunity. If we check the related tab here, that will identify the next opportunity, which would be this one, and update the status for that opportunity, create a payment for that opportunity, and of course mark the opportunity as closed one. We're not going to do that now. Actually, we have another story here because Patrick is, hey, oops, I actually didn't mean to do that, or I'm a bit tight on money now. So he picks up the phone, he calls Cena and asks Cena to please cancel that recurring donation and refund that transaction. So Cena identifies the recurring donation. So she goes to the subscription and she just pushes this button. Yes, please cancel that subscription. And we are also going to the opportunity here, to the one that was marked as closed won, and we're going to the RaiseNow transaction record, and we are going to request a refund here. Okay. Now that's our subscription. I didn't make a mistake. And we see here a jump from active to inactive. So RaiseNow will no longer charge this subscription. And we have up here, we have a transaction. And if we look at the status history of that transaction, then we can see that it jumped from final success to final cancel. If Patrick had waited a day, we actually would not have been able to cancel that transaction. Instead, we would have created a second transaction, a refund transaction of the same amount, which would then be attributed to the donor's credit card. So let's see if our process has already finished in Salesforce. So of course, that now has to be reflected in Salesforce, right? So we see here, the subscription status has changed from open to closed. And if we check out the installments, the opportunities representing the individual installments, we see that all installments have been marked as closed lost. So actually, this upper installment was marked as closed won before, and these were all pledged. They were now updated to closed lost to indicate that we no longer expect payments for these. So maybe one last case. So let's see if that works. So Patrick might now say, okay, you know, I don't plan to give regularly, but I'm going to give you another one-off donation. So let's hopefully that's correct. Okay, and we have to put in an amount here and a close date. So we create an opportunity. This is still Cena on the phone. We create an opportunity. The details here are really not terribly important. So we've created an opportunity for Patrick now. And because we have a payment source created or a safe payment method for Patrick, we can actually say, okay, Patrick, thanks for your donation. You wanted to donate CHF40, so charge that selected payment source. Now a request goes out to RaiseNow to say, hey, I have a new donation here for an existing payment source. And if we check that out in RaiseNow, then we just see here a brand new transaction that was created for Patrick with the details that we took from within Salesforce. And we're basically now bypassing everything else. And if we check out this opportunity now, we just reload here, and it's now again jump to closed lost. We have a closed won. We have a payment here. We have a contact here, and actually on this one we also have a GAU allocation for the education fund. Right. I think that's it in terms of demo. We have another 10 minutes roughly for Q&A. So I'll hand over back to Daniel if I find the button to end the presentation.
Thank you very much, Jens. That was very insightful, very interesting, and I think that demonstration really shows the importance of creating a donor-centric experience, so making it as easy as possible for those who want to contribute to your organizations, and then on the other side, as the actual user of a CRM or whichever system that you're using, making it easy to improve efficiency, improve operations. And I think all in all, they're all very tightly linked, and in doing so, create a better experience for the donor at the end of the day. So does anybody have any questions? We've received a few questions already in the chat. I'd be happy to go through those. There were especially a number with regards to Twint. Maybe Marco would like to touch on that briefly as well, whilst we wait for some other questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot for all the questions. Actually, I tried to answer most of them. So there were some questions around how much Twint costs. It's in the region of a debit and credit cards. So it's the standard price, which is published on the website of Twint, is 1.3%. And it depends if you have a existing payment service provider or whether you work with RaiseNow, then basically there will be additional costs. But usually, it should be in the region of 1 to 3%, depends on what solution you go for. Then there was a question regarding currency. It's supported in Twint. Twint is only available to users based in Switzerland, or at least having a Swiss bank account or any affiliation to Switzerland. So there's only Swiss francs that is supported. If you want to get your organization into that spotlight of the Twint app, that main page, that's basically where you reach to the 5 million Twint users, you can actually contact us. You can directly contact sales@raisenow.com, and we'll link you to the representative of Twint for those campaigns. There is a specific pricing depending on the campaign you'd like to run. There is also possibilities to basically block a certain time frame, or alternatively, if there is a big emergency, there might be a spot available. To be honest, it's only one spot, and there are a lot of charities competing for that one spot, and so therefore I can't guarantee whether you get into it or not. It heavily depends on the Twint planning.
Thank you, Marco. Also, there's been a number of references throughout the demonstration to NPSP, which is the Nonprofit Success Pack. So just to kind of align and make sure we understand what that is. So the NPSP, the Nonprofit Success Pack, is a part of the Salesforce ecosystem, which is essentially an out-of-the-box add-on which aligns all the objects to be, say, in the non-profit language, you could say. So it just makes things a little bit easier. There's obviously always ability to make updates to that, but it is an out-of-the-box solution which helps you immediately get started, which I think is always very powerful and helpful. A question from me then in that case to Jens perhaps is, you mentioned we touched briefly on tracking results. So what type of metrics are we able to track through both Salesforce and RaiseNow to really show the results that we're seeing, or show the results through from donations?
Well, I would say the main thing, of course, is campaign success. So say you have a particular campaign, then you can, a particular marketing campaign, you can create a dedicated campaign for that in Salesforce and make sure that donations you send through a dedicated landing page go to that campaign. There are other ways of tracking things. So you could come up with using automatic parameter mapping to, for example, have a Gmail campaign passed as a custom field to opportunities within Salesforce, right? That would be sort of one way to do it. That question is really kind of deep. Maybe you can give me a pointer in what direction you were looking.
I mean, look, I think maybe in terms of conversion rates, in terms of the number of I'm out of regions perhaps, so being able to understand which areas within, say, if we're in Switzerland or say internationally, which regions tend to be the highest donors. something along those lines to be able to track which areas or which yeah.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. The donation form per default will only ever ask for the field it needs for a specific payment method. So say your payment method does not require an address, then the default configuration is that we will not ask for the address. However, you can change that. You can say, okay, for this campaign, I really want the address to be mandatory, and then donors have to supply the address. Usually when you try to optimize conversion rates, you tend to try to hide these fields, but another way to do that maybe would be to go through geolocation based on IP address. That is slightly fuzzy, I would say, because IP addresses don't necessarily come from the country of origin, but I think for just rough statistics, it's probably accurate enough. And again, you could pass that information in a custom field to Salesforce. So that would be probably one way of doing that. Other than that, Currencies, of course, an interesting metric. As I've written in the chat, we support multiple currencies, right? So basically any of the usual currencies we can support, and Salesforce does the same thing. So you can track whether, for example, British pound versus euro, where the CHF performs better.
Thank you. All right, so we've got a couple of minutes left. I don't see any further questions. So maybe to slowly conclude today's, or to quickly conclude today's webinar, I think what we covered today were the back end and the front end. So the donor experience, how do you make a contribution? How do you make the donation? How do you track that? And how do you manage that on the back end? The next question, which we won't cover today, but I think something to keep in our minds is what happens once a donor has made that donation? What is the next part of the journey? Do they receive some form of contact? Is it a newsletter? Is it a personalized piece of communication? How do you manage that internally? What is the next step? And how do we manage to maintain that contact and that engagement with that individual donor throughout you could say, their donation journey? And I think that's an interesting one that is always, it's not over as of the moment they make the donation. It's actually a continuous stream which we need to maintain. So look, on that last note, we've only got a few moments left. So unless there are any last and final questions, I would like to thank everyone for joining today. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Jens, for speaking. And again, thank you all for taking the time on your busy day to join us today. We will send out shortly a survey. So if you are able to provide any feedback, it's always highly valued. Thanks again for joining, and we will be hopefully in touch very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.